I'm going to try and not talk so loud because I have a new microphone that's really loud.
Sounds okay from this end.
Okay. But it allows me to keep the air conditioning on. So, like, okay, go on. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to share this with Telegram. And I hope everybody's doing awesome. We're just going to kind of talk about some of the current things that are going on.
Hmm.
Um, feel like we're really in the middle of something fairly big right now. There's already people watching. So hi everybody.
Hey, beautiful
I'm just gonna,
souls.
Anya and I are just gonna have a chat about some of the things going on. I'll probably peruse the email questions and just so we can talk about that as well. But I'm really excited to talk to you guys, hear from you guys. And I'm gonna turn this volume down. Okay, so we're now in the chat. Okay, and it looks like we're still in there. So,
Lovely.
hi, Anya.
Hi.
Hi. So, Anya, what time is it over there?
It is 20 to 9, and I might look extra tired because today has been a long day. I've been up since 5:30 in parent mode, and I've been swimming and I've been to the park. I've been on full mum mode today, so I'm a little bit tired.
Good, good. Yeah, well, I totally get it. I know yesterday we were really tired. So there's a lot of energies that have moved through.
Mhm.
And like if you're exhausted, that's totally fair right now. A
Mhm.
lot of stuff has happened, and a lot of stuff is happening in our lives that maybe we're not totally prepared for either. I think that's one part of ascension that I didn't expect. Like things are kind of coming at us that we have to handle, even if we're worn out.
Yeah.
Um, it's not as simple of a process as I expected it to be, because you have all these traumas that you're healing and shadows and all this stuff.
The layers of the onion.
Yes, the layers, we're peeling the layers. Um, oh, so Carrie says her birthday is July 15th, so happy birthday. I feel like we may get a gift before the 15th or after the 15th. I don't do dates. It really is about the energy. The energy is intense right now. Yesterday it was really thick, and even my husband was like, "Oh, it's 9 o'clock. I have to go to bed." So he's immediately in bed. And I feel like it's just been pretty intense for most of us
Yeah.
over especially in the last week. But even before that, I mean, we got rid of the agreement that suppressed humanity in the first place. So that's a pretty big deal. And it
Huge.
required a lot of healing.
Mhm.
Um, and I know a lot of us went through like crisis during that time. And I think our bodies also are recalibrating or reorganizing themselves. So I don't know about you, Anya, but I had like muscular and ligament pain,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was really intense. So
Well, I think that's a
yeah.
common theme, and it seems to me like I almost code it. When it's my sciatic nerve, it feels like that's the inner teen, the dramas, the insecurities that are like kind of twanging on my sciatic nerve. And then I've experienced the plantar fasciitis, I think it's called, on your foot,
Oh
and
yeah.
that just keeps coming and going, and it's been there for like I don't know since after I had Phoenix, so about 9 months. And it's so painful sometimes, and it flares up on some days more than others. And I feel like it's on those days where I feel more stuck and where I feel more in a loop or in a cycle, rather than the days where I'm moving forward and progressing. And that's where my foot doesn't hurt as much. And interestingly, it's on my left side, which is obviously the feminine as well. So I
Yeah.
always really ask into where is the muscle pain, the ligament pain, and why is it manifesting in that area, and
Mhm.
what side of the body, and what does that represent. I think the body is a fantastic messenger.
It is. Yeah, mine was on the left too.
Mhm.
And my hips, knees, and ankles were all screwy. But my one ankle, there was like a ligament in there that was just pulling. So it's hard to walk. And all of a sudden, like 2 days ago, it's like, oh, we're all fine now. Hips and knees, and everything's fine. And my foot still hurts a little bit, but it's like, okay, well, I guess we worked through that problem, whatever it was, because I didn't do anything different.
No, that's the
So,
thing. It's like what we're not changing it, but it just miraculously wake up one day and it's better. I try and think about what shoes I'm wearing and how far I walked that day. And there can be days where I didn't really walk that far and I walked barefoot, but yet that day it flared up more than the day where I wore shoes and walked around. So it's like for me, it's not necessarily always a physical thing, like you say.
mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and we've had a lot of shadows come in. Betty's asking about one of her pains that she's having in her ear in
Mm,
the email questions, and it has to do with pain that we are experiencing in another parallel life. So a shadow is asking to be healed. I've had some outrageous dreams, and
me
they're
too.
like parallels that are happening. So one of them, the guy was like a time traveler and he had some sword that was like curved like a C, and
Mm,
he was traveling through time and he had to get that sword, and then he didn't know how to get out, so I had to go and save him. But then I
okay.
realized, oh, he's me. That is one of my parallel lives. And so the second night when I had another dream like that, I was like, oh, these are two parallel lives. I need to heal them.
Yep,
So
yep,
I just told my soul like to get it done. But it is really interesting what's going on right now. And we're starting to see how things work in the astral plane,
yep.
and we're experiencing it. And it's fun, but it's also like
Intense.
very outside the box.
Hmm. Yeah, and for me, it can be really intense, especially right now. I feel like I'm very much not being forced, but I'm in an experience where I'm more in the human than I usually am. So I'm more immersed in a human experience than I usually choose to live. And it requires a lot of your attention and your focus and your energy, obviously, to be more in the human, I feel. And I've been waking up from the astral and really not knowing like what is going on around me, being so disconnected from this human experience. It actually takes me a good like 10-15 minutes in the bath to recalibrate to like what day we're in, what month we're in, like what are my plans, like what's going on. Because I go to this, I've spoke to you about it before, I go to this alternate reality and I remember such detail. And I wake
Mhm.
up as if I'm still experiencing that reality. So I'm still in that other version of me, their perspective and their emotions and their people that they're thinking about. And it's so confusing and I feel really disconnected from my own experience. And it takes me a good 10-15 minutes to recalibrate. And that's not happened for about maybe a year or two. So it's quite interesting that that's coming back up again at this time. I've been experiencing that this week, and it's been really intense to kind of separate the astral dreams and the missions that we've been going on, and then the real life reality that I'm having to deal with every day.
I bet that is something, there's something in that lifetime that needs to be healed.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I sent my
So
higher.
just asking your soul to deal with it and calling your angels in, and like that's what I've seen. Your soul will deal with it, but I've noticed that because we're the last group to
Mhm.
ascend, like Earth, um, we're instigating a lot of the healing that's
Yeah,
going on in the astral plane. So you almost have to say, please heal that up. I don't want
yeah.
to
I've picked
have
up on
that.
that.
Yeah.
I have picked up on that. I picked up on the fact that if you are this consciously aware in this lifetime, if you are understanding this conversation right now and able to comprehend and engage in conversations like this with yourself and other people, then
Hmm.
your soul, in my opinion, this fractal is most likely the most evolved version of your fractals that are living on Earth. And so it's almost like you're the major or, the boss man of the army. And you've got to instruct what you are wanting these other fractals to do because you have the most conscious connection in the human form, and that creates the action in the other human lifetimes. It's almost, I kind of seen it as a way to, it's obviously still your free will, but because it's a part of our soul, we have permission to speed things up, to clear things, to possibly alter things in a positive way for these other fractals, and to claim healing in a faster way. And because we are connected to that, we have permission to do that for them. So it is important that you are setting the intention to retrieve any fractals back to the oversoul, to release any trauma from the fractals that's ready to be released, to be, retrieving anything if you are visiting there often, like Honey says. I haven't been to this specific place for a while, for a good few years, and yet I was back there the other night. So there's clearly something that's unfinished, and it's important to recognize these messages as not just a dream, and as actual a mission, and an important thing that you need to pick up on.
Yeah. Yeah. And whatever parallel you're in, your highest parallel is where you're doing the most work.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's keeping you in that highest parallel. So that means that the other ones need to be healed.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe you're just unaware in that other lifetime, or maybe you're half aware. And in this lifetime, you're very aware.
Yeah.
So whatever your highest parallel is, you're doing a lot of the healing for the rest of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't mean you have to actually physically do anything. It's just recognizing it and say, okay, I need you to go and heal now,
Mm-hmm.
and go back into the oversoul. So I'm looking at some of these questions. And your dreams really are a big thing. I noticed for a long time nobody was dreaming, and now
Yeah.
people are dreaming quite a bit again.
Yeah, I
And
know.
that's astral. Like we're in
Mm-hmm.
the astral. So SNC is asking about her daughter, who has personal stuff, and she's pregnant and due in October. She's deciding, your daughter's deciding whether she's going to be okay or not, basically. I feel like just holding space for her is important right now, so that she'll, choose to go the high road. But she's really kind of in the midst of her decision right now. There will be something to heal animals with the med beds. Yeah. And I get it's a handheld thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Have you seen that in your, like, when you're tapping in? It's like
When I
a
tap
handheld
in,
thing that you wave over the top. Yeah.
I've not seen the handheld one before, so I was quite excited by that when you said that. But I see it almost looks like a sunbed, like a lay down sunbed, and it's got like
Mhm.
electromagnetic frequency waves, and they're like purple and blue. And I made a deck of cards, and one of them was about a med bed, and I, created them on them digital art creators online, where you can like create it with the prompts in your mind, and it created it more or less kind of to the T what I was thinking. Not exactly, but close enough. And it was nice to see it visually in the, usually I'll paint it, but it was quick and it was easy to do that way. And it was nice to see it in a visual form on how I see it, because I do think, maybe that's the human translation of it, but it would be an easy way to be able to receive that healing frequency from every aspect, like kind of going around the
Mhm.
whole thing if your body needed the full thing. But obviously for animals, that would make sense. What would that mean for animals that have lost a limb? Because I've got a little three-legged dog. So would that mean?
I feel like they'll have something that's more intense, like for going to the veterinarian or something, or wherever it is that you know, that's bigger.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you're healing a horse and sometimes you're healing a
Yeah, of
mouse. Like,
course, of
who
course.
knows? So I feel like it'll be handheld when people are running around, but they will
Yeah.
probably have some bigger things in clinics and stuff. But then you have to take the animal to it. And it just popped in that way several years ago,
That makes
that it was
sense.
going to
That
be
makes sense.
handheld.
little drop in.
Um,
That'd be nice though. And I think the
mhm.
parasites are a massive problem with animals. So I think once
Oh
we
yeah,
obviously extend in, that's one of the reoccurring problems with my animals with their skin and the coats and the fleas and things like that. Like constantly having to find new remedies because they're always fighting against it, the parasites. So it is an exhausting thing. And I always think out of everything that's created on Earth, I really feel this has no purpose to be here. It has no role in the economic system other than to destroy and feed off life. And I just don't find it useful. I feel like we cannot have these forms of things in the new earth because it's not necessary for ascension.
they're not. They're
No,
not coming with us. So
fair
I
enough.
don't really see like mosquitoes,
No,
flies, wasps. I see lots of honeybees, and that kind of stuff,
yeah,
but I don't see ticks. I don't see snakes that are biting you and have a bunch of poison in their mouths. I don't see any of that stuff in the future.
no.
I do see that there will be some large animals that may not be that safe to be around because they may
Yeah,
step
for
on you
sure.
or sit on you.
Mhm.
But not that they would intend to do so.
Yeah,
So, I think it's just going to be a really interesting time, but I don't see any of that. I feel like that was all created
but I do
by the
as well. I do.
you know who people. Yeah.
Yeah, because there really is no purpose. That's what I was sat thinking the other day because my little dog, again, she's got a reoccurring skin problem she gets. If she gets one flea bite, she has a whole skin allergy thing. And I was sat there thinking, like, why is this is not a thing. Like this has no purpose, Even like you said, there's some insects and there's some creatures that are maybe not too connected with humans, but have such a role in the economic system and provide a purpose to the earth and to the earth's survival and to the earth's functioning. But for them specifically, things like that, the parasitical things, they have seriously no purpose in helping evolutionize other than to damage. So I do agree that they have to dissipate.
Yeah. Yeah. So like pets are gonna stay here
Yes.
and they won't have parasites anymore. Like all of that. It's going to be really interesting though, because animals are going to become more and more sovereign as we
Yeah.
go. Just like humanity is becoming more sovereign, so will animals. And I feel like there's going to be sanctuaries for them. And then eventually some of them may choose just like to live on their own. Like, who knows exactly, because we're going to be able to tap into what they want.
Yeah.
And it'll be a transition for them, just like it is for us.
Which I feel like will
So,
be a really nice thing because I connect with my animals on a frequency level. And when I've been away, I noticed that they've missed that communication, as silly as that sounds. They've missed having someone that understands what they need when they need it, and they've missed recognizing their little cues and their frequencies. So I definitely feel that the more we attune to frequency, it doesn't matter if it's a person, a spirit, an extraterrestrial, an animal, everything is frequency. So we can connect to their frequency and find out their needs and help meet their needs. And like Honey says, that allows them to be more independently free. And that, for me, obviously, as an animal lover and an animal owner, you kind of get a bit upset thinking that they might leave you. And I don't think that's the case necessarily for all of them. I think it's the case of them being able to be more free outside and be safe without being the fear of them being stolen or the fear of people being nasty and hurting animals. We won't have these same concerns. My dad's rescued animals for years and he had a dog that was 23 years old when she passed, and she were in the local newspaper because she used to walk herself around the whole block, and a good maybe 3 mile walk every day on her own, and everyone knew her as the dog who walked herself. And my dad tried to stop her doing it at the beginning, and everyone just supported him with that and made him feel safe in the local community to feel like she was able to do that, and she did that for a good 17 years of her life. And she was sovereign. She came back home, she was fed, she was loved, she had cuddles, but she was free to do what she chose to do. And obviously, as societies evolve, that's not necessarily how we feel with as animals. It's like as children. And I understand, I more than anyone understand, I've been guilty of keeping my cats in when I've moved house because I'm afraid of them going away, because you don't want to lose these babies. And even though they're not happy about it, I've done that because I don't want to lose them and I don't want them to be in danger. And there's times where you have to choose in what's best for them, but you also will learn, they'll tell you what's best for them too. And I think it's finding that middle ground, just like it is with people. And we'll all learn to communicate on a frequency level, but mainly with animals too. It's a really beautiful thing.
Mhm. It really is. It really is beautiful.
I love animals.
Mojo Mama's asking about healing. And so it comes in that frequency healing is something important for her, but there's so much frequency healing available now. Start looking into it, you guys. Like, there's lots of bridges to the med beds right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
that are available.
And that's what we need to be
And
looking.
start looking into them and seeing if something resonates with you. Like, I'm doing something right now. I purchased a frequency thing that, and I'll talk about it later probably, but it really helps with all kinds of frequencies and the
Mhm.
body. And I see it as a bridge to the med bed.
Nice.
So there really is a lot of stuff that you can do for yourself that is available right now. Be careful of scams too. I will say
Mm.
there's a lot of people saying, give us money and we'll show you where the med beds are. Like,
Yeah, no
please be
way.
careful with yourself. I
Mm.
don't really feel like that's very real at this point.
Me neither.
And
But I do get, oh, sorry. Sorry, honey.
go ahead. No, go
I
ahead.
do get for that lady that obviously musical frequency healing, like you say, but specifically drums. So I'm actually getting for this woman more of a tribal drum, more of a shamanic drum, I think would be very useful. But I bought a little tongue drum. I've got the link, I think, in
Oh
my
yeah,
TikTok.
I love those.
Yeah, and I just found that so beautiful. Just, you can put them out in the rain, but you can also play them. And I think you're right. I think frequency is very, very, very much important right now. And just about what you said about the bridge to the med beds, I think that's so crucial because I've been recently, shown why people are so desperate for med beds in a physical level because I don't necessarily experience as much physical suffering as other people. So I don't have the same need for a physical med bed. However, I have observed, the need for that, and I understand that that obviously is a huge thing, and it's like a need for it right now. But there is so many things, like Honey's saying, that can bridge us and find relief on the way there as we're kind of making us journey there. A lot of the times in Ascension, it's not going from one thing to a massive jump to another. There is usually steps in the meantime. So I think the
Mhm.
best thing you can do is, like Honey said, explore different modalities of healing that are resonating with you to kind of open up the doorway for your frequency to be ready to access them frequencies that you're going to receive on a med bed because they're going to be high frequencies and our human body has also got to be ready to receive that too.
Yeah. And I think that was part of the body upgrade that happened over the last
Yeah,
week.
I agree.
I also feel like there's a lot of stuff energetically happening,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just happening inside of us right now. We're also seeing it in the public.
Yeah.
So we are, I feel, in the midst of a pretty big shift that's about to happen. Somebody's asking about that. I also think that the lower parallels are bumping us too. So you're maybe experiencing more angry people around, more cranky people, being affected by some of the lower parallels more often over this
Yeah.
last week because they tend to all sandwich up when something big is getting ready to happen
Interesting.
so they can all see it.
Like a
And they'll
coil.
all perceive it in a different way,
Interesting.
and then they'll spread apart again. But I noticed probably 2 weeks ago they started to get like closer, and then eventually like portals open up and you're experiencing something and you're like, this hasn't happened in a really long time, and
Yeah.
I don't even understand why that person is freaking out, and they have such a weird point of view,
Yeah. Yeah.
but
Oh, honey, it's like you
it's
just read my last week.
yeah. So that's been going on, and it definitely, you want to keep yourself shielded
Yeah.
when we're getting ready to see something together. All the parallels will probably experience this together. And a lot of these people are very unhealed, like they're not working on themselves. They have no awareness of what's going on, and their energy is affecting, you know, the
Yeah, I
rest of
agree.
us. Yeah.
And this is also, we've been working on boundaries for a long time. This has been something that's been coming up for a long time in the collective
Mhm.
because as light workers, we're very giving, we're very pleasing, we want to heal, we want to love. But it's been something we have to been working on. And for me, it's been really highlighted. This, if you don't do it now, we're going to keep highlighting to you. That's what my higher self's been saying. If you don't do it now, we're going to keep showing you, and we're going to keep showing you, and we're going to keep showing you. And I've really had to kind of sit with some uncomfortable and painful truths and behaviors and actions this past 2 weeks and past couple of months, but mainly the past 2 weeks. And I've had to make choices that have defined change. If I expect change, I have to choose to create that within my life, which means making some painful decisions and, you know, cutting off some communication with people, at least temporarily, so they can reflect on their actions and have their own choice whether they want to continue in that pattern or change their behavior too. So I think it's a really, really important time for that. And if you're having to do that, please do not fall into that perception that you're doing anything wrong or that you're asking for too much or that your feelings are not valid, because we've been so programmed to fall into that response, and it's just simply not true. If this has been coming up and coming up and coming up and now it's been brought up in a massive way or quite an important large way, I would definitely say it's time to listen now and it's time to take action on that and put some boundaries in place.
Yeah, it really is. It's time for that. Um, we just a few minutes ago we had 222 people on the chat, which was really fun.
I love that.
Yeah. Um, so there are a lot of different treatments that are not scams. It's
Mm-hmm.
the ones that are saying that they're going to give you access to a med bed right now that
Yeah.
are not probably on the up and up. That was a question in there. Um,
And I think just always using your discernment and asking, like, is this in my highest good? Does this
yeah.
benefit me? I think, and if you struggle with getting a yes or a no, ask for a green light, red light, use the body sway. And there's always a pendulum, there's always something you can use to connect. We're all connected. So it's just about asking, ask yourself if this feels right to you, ask your higher self, ask your guides,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And there's so many simple ways to do it. The sway test, like you said, is
Yeah.
so easy. Just sit up straight and say, is this in my highest good or not? And if you sway forward, it's probably yes. If you sway backward, it's probably not,
Mm-hmm.
and do it for some of the things that don't matter to you
Yeah.
first.
Like test it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Like,
always say start with
do
your
I need
human
to buy
name.
ketchup? Yes or no?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Or I start
Yeah.
and says my human's name, Anya. And and then it shows me, am I in tune today with the yes or no? That's how I always used to start things like
Mhm.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. So somebody's asking in the email about giants.
Ooh, I've been talking
So
about this today.
there is a lot of, I think that the giants are waking up energetically. Are they coming out of the ground? No, but I mean, I can see why you dreamt that. So she
Yeah.
dreamt that they came out of the ground. They all began to rise up over the earth slowly, making their way over the lands of the earth, coming together on a peninsula off the coast of Ireland, she said.
Ooh.
Um, and it looked like us, many had red hair or dark hair. Some appeared to be half giants, as they were half the size of the others. This feels like disclosure is coming. I feel like Charlotte has been a giant
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
and she's connected to that. Um, so she's just talking about all the different kinds of giants. So remember that the Tartarians, a lot of them were giants.
Yeah.
And we are going to come in contact with them as we vibrate higher because they ascended. And also they're still healing some of their stuff. So giants in general, they were really mistreated. I mean, they were basically constantly being bioengineered by making them smaller and smaller and smaller. And then they were kicked out of here. So who knows what happened to all of them? They could have been unalived, a lot of them. Um, so I think a lot of giants went into hiding,
Yeah, I
and
agree.
that the mud flood was really traumatic for giants, I'm sure, because they were just like us, only bigger. A lot of them.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
sad. And I think what that lady's getting in her dream is the remembrance of giant self. We've been so conditioned to believe that we
Hmm.
are these small, tiny, weak, feeble humans that have no power. And it's not true. And once we have the remembrance that we have been multidimensional beings, including giants, I feel it will be an uprising of sorts, and it will be a remembrance, and it will be a power that nobody can take away or control once we have that remembrance. And I feel that's what she's picking up on too.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
actually made a TikTok post about this morning, and it was called "I Am Giant." How ironic.
Oh, that's ironic. Yeah. So Kimmy had someone pass away recently, and she's asking about them. So her mother-in-law passed away. Um, I'm getting that soul wanted to go into a younger body
Mm,
for ascension. That's what it feels like. Um, she will still be here for ascension. So that's interesting. Don't feel like you can't talk to her. You totally can. And that's getting easier and easier, but I would feel free to talk to her right now. She's in kind of a little bit of a confused state, it feels like, because it just happened. And she's in that place, the in-between place, where
hmm
you have
Yeah,
your guides and they're helping
yeah,
you
yeah,
through
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Soul reviewing.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, and also the parallels could have shifted because she didn't think that was going to happen with her mother-in-law. She
hmm
thought she was going to stay. So she could have switched parallels and decided to go because I get that she's going to go into a much younger body, probably a child.
Yeah, I resonate with that. That makes sense.
Mhm. So, yeah. And I'm sorry that your family's not going to get to experience her during Ascension. I feel like eventually you will find her again, though.
Mm.
So,
Yeah, the soul feels a little bit, like you say, in processing right now. Because I don't think, obviously, a higher self knew, but a human wasn't consciously ready for that. So it was a
mhm.
shock to the human system, and she's processing that. But she is with a lot of family, and she is feeling very, very loved and held right now. And I think that's what's the most important thing to know is that she is not alone, and she's feeling incredibly loved, and she's sending a lot of grounding for the family right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's really good.
Mhm.
And frequency, she's mentioning another thing. So the EE systems, a lot of people talk about them. They are frequency. So yes, they are a bridge. They're one of the bridges that's out there to, what comes next, which would be med beds. There may be some systems that like you can have at home, like I do. There's a lot of stuff out there right now. There's a lot of frequency things that you can utilize. And remember, parasites function on a certain frequency, and if you create a different frequency, they're going to start to just fall away. I don't want to say certain words because YouTube gets mad, but those parasites aren't going to be there anymore. So there's frequencies for that. There's frequencies for your digestion. There's frequencies for everything.
I agree.
So yeah, just really think about that. And some frequencies you can access for free on YouTube. So
Mhm.
ask your body, do you want this frequency? Do you like it?
Does it
And
resonate?
if your body likes it, then do it,
Mhm. I agree.
you know? Yeah. So what can you do to help you remember your dreams? Set an alarm, which is kind of rude, but
My human would not like that.
no. Yeah, I get up to an alarm every day,
Mhm.
and it does help me remember the last dream that I was having. And usually I'll be up at least once in the night and I'll remember whatever was going on. And
Yeah.
I try to retain it instead of write it down because have a husband that I don't want to wake up. But if I was single or sleeping in a bed by myself, I would probably write down stuff in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
would have like a
yeah.
little journal at the side of your bed with a little pen and, just wake up or even on your phone and just record your voice as your voice noting. If you don't have a pen and paper accessible, obviously if you have a partner, then like Connie says, that's difficult, but you could easily, go into the bathroom and record it
Mhm.
there. So I think it's important to start consciously bringing in the remembrance because we are getting a lot of messages in as dreams, like you say, and I think it's important to bring in what that means for us.
Yeah. And the inner child is starting to retain a lot more, like the human part of us is starting to retain a lot more because it's important for our soul and our inner child to do a lot of this stuff together.
Yep.
Um, yeah. And Pamela is asking about her dad. So we're not doctors. We can't claim to cure any diseases, but two things came in immediately. Um, Mullein tea and Essiac tea. So you'll have to look those up. I feel like he wants to stay.
What did she say? What?
So he's got a lung issue going on, and is in remission, but now having lung stuff again.
Okay, that makes sense. I am seeing the eucalyptus plant as well, so
Mm.
maybe not in. It's a very strong plant, so I would use it cautiously and like not very minimal. Um, but you could maybe infuse maybe a diluted drop in a bath and have it infused in like a heated area so you can breathe it in, almost when there's kind of a lot of steam in the bathroom and you can inhale that. I think eucalyptus will be good at the purification right now for the lungs.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Roman has a question. I'm sorry, I don't really totally understand what you're talking about. 528 is the love frequency. It's
Mm-hmm.
fabulous. Um, any suggestions for anxiety? Yes. Grounding, resetting the nervous system, which what I would do is go look up how to reset the vagus nerve. And that's going to be back here. But you can do different things to help your vagus nerve calm down, and that will reset the nervous system.
Yep.
Magnesium is really like the go-to thing for your nervous system as well when it comes to nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned, Anya, the other day that if your adrenals get like a shock,
Yep.
then like your adrenals will dump your minerals out of your body.
Interesting.
So then you have to remineralize.
Interesting. So when you're living in anxiety with fight or flight, you're kind of constantly shedding out your
Yeah, so
minerals.
you need to
Interesting.
remineralize all the time if you're doing that.
That's really interesting.
And a lot of stuff is better on your skin than it is in, taking orally because your skin has no filter.
Yeah.
So it's 26 seconds, I think, before it gets to the bloodstream.
Yeah, I use the magnesium spray. I would also recommend the breathing exercises. I think that was kind of the gateway for me when I went from having panic attacks. I mean, I used to have like 15 panic attacks a day and think that were normal. But the breathing was so crucial for me once I acknowledged that that's in fact not normal as a human being and we shouldn't live in that state of anxiety. I would consciously acknowledge the spiralization, the feeling, the emotion, and I would kind of grab hold of it like a balloon thread, pull it in and breathe through it and then release it out so that it wasn't just going in, all over the mind. So
Mhm.
I definitely think the breathing techniques can be, a lot more powerful than people realize. Breath is key.
Oh
And
yeah,
cold
it's
water
huge.
swimming helped me a lot. Cold water swimming helped me a lot with anxiety and panic attacks.
Hmm. That's really good.
Yeah.
So Roman says they're talking about a lot of incidents this weekend happening or early next week. Is that true? Well, I feel like there's a lot of things going on in the political area, but there could be some things going on there. Yes. When it happens exactly, that's very malleable.
Mhm.
Um, but we're really getting close to some things happening there. In this parallel, at least, and the energy, they're just going to keep pushing that until it happens. I see July as some big revelations when it comes to that kind of stuff.
I
I don't
agree.
see any real big negative, scary stuff.
No.
Some people may perceive things to be scarier than they really are too.
Yeah.
So remembering that.
I would agree.
So somebody's getting long, sharp pains, like a poke,
Mm.
and then it goes away. So that feels like a parallel life. So ask if it's a shadow, and if
Yeah.
it is, then tell your soul, here you go. Here's the shadow. Heal it
Yeah.
up, please.
Can
Yeah.
you retreat, please? It does feel like her spirits are also trying to raise awareness to this to kind of help speed up the process. So there may be some like spirit activity, like the energy in the room and the lights and stuff. I feel like they're trying to get the attention to clear it up.
Hmm.
They're trying to assist, obviously.
Yeah. So if you're having another thing, so Barbara had to put ice water on herself in order to come out of a panic attack.
Yeah.
So do things that you know are going to work. Get maybe a rubber band and
Hmm.
snap it. Do things that just pull your mind out of that loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I suffered with anxiety really bad for a long, long time. And there is still sometimes I have to counteract the old programs that pop up. And I'd say out of anything, that was definitely the thing that was most overwhelming for me in the human. And I've spent a lot of years working through that and a lot of different techniques. And I will say there isn't kind of one technique that will work for all. It really is also finding the root of the anxiety and where it comes from, because a lot of it starts in childhood. And, if you
Mhm.
didn't have the most emotionally stable environment or individuals around you, and that's not a disrespectful thing, it's just sometimes a simple fact. And it's about acknowledging maybe the needs that your inner child didn't get met as a child, and them needs that maybe need meeting now by the adult version of you to relieve some of that state of fight or flight and nervous system panic, because a lot of it is originating to an older trauma that happened in early life, and the nervous system is bringing up that memory and creating the panic attack or the anxiety. So I really would recommend going backwards and working with the past to help the anxiety in the present.
Mhm. I agree with that. If you're having anxiety too, ask if it's a shadow. If you're having pain, ask if it's a shadow. We're
Mhm.
in a really busy time of healing right now, and ask, is it a shadow for my soul, or is it a genetic thing that I need to heal from my genetic line, or is it something to do with this lifetime, which would be your human consciousness, your inner child?
Mhm.
And work on those things, and a lot of your body stuff will feel better.
Yeah, I agree, because it's just a
Yeah.
messenger. The body is communicating the messages from the soul. So if we learn to kind of bypass the body having to deliver the message, we can learn to bypass sometimes the ailments that come with the messages. We can just receive the message
Yeah,
direct.
exactly. Um, so let's see. Are the animals feeling all of this? They are going through some of this stuff. They have a little bit of their own. And if they're an animal that is chosen to take on your stuff, then yes. Because some animals, they come and they take on some of your drama. and your pain. And they're doing it to help you. But I would break those contracts if you have an animal that's doing that because it's not really appropriate anymore. Just like it's not appropriate for us to take on pain from a family member. Um, we're not supposed to be carrying around other people's stuff because it takes away sovereignty for the person who's giving you stuff to carry and for yourself.
I agree. 100% agree, Hannah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, there is a lot of, so when a big shadow comes up for the collective, you may feel it in your body.
Yes.
You may feel physical anxiety. So
Yeah,
do
it'll
be
be
aware of
yours.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. We can transmute a lot as well. That's the thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So there was some kind of copper. I don't understand that. There is a lot of issues with digestion, and I
Yeah,
think it's being reorganized as well.
yeah. I'm
Yeah.
experiencing that at the moment. Just also like just waves in appetite, you know. I have my own stuff going on too, but my appetite has been not consistently normal. And like you said earlier,
Mhm.
I'm just consistently exhausted. I'm needing to nap a lot more. And there's just so much going on that, you know, some of it's a me thing, but some of it's also a collective thing. And, you know, like you were just saying a minute ago, sometimes we can feel all sorts of different energy for the collective that we're transmuting. And it can be a little bit intense. And if you do feel like it's reoccurring, the too intense, almost like a music dial, just turn it down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And whatever issue you have with your body, whether it's breathlessness, whether it's pain, ask what is the emotional component?
Yeah.
Is it a shadow trauma from my soul? Is
It's
it a
from a
genetic
different
thing?
life.
Is it, my inner child? Deal with that first
Mm-hmm.
and
I
then
completely
start
get it.
addressing. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like finding a little pattern, like identifying and acknowledging it, and then asking for support and releasing or doing whatever needs doing for it. You know, it's like you say, it can be anything from past life ancestral, this lifetime, soul stuff, you know, so many different layers that we need to work through. And sometimes it can be really exhausting. And it's just about acknowledging it and being able to ask for support to work on that.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. There's a funny question in here. So Leslie's asking, is Honey, I Shrunk the Kids disclosure? Yes, totally.
Mhm.
It is. It's disclosure.
Of course.
Um, and there were some that were smaller than we are, like they topped out at like 3 feet, I think. And they were recently, there was another group found that was extremely small. And that whole Whoville thing, remember Horton Hears a Who, that
Yeah, I
movie with the
remember
elephant?
yeah, I do
Yeah,
remember it. I remember the
that's
other one as well.
disclosure. That's
Yeah.
totally disclosure. Because your soul may be bigger than planet Earth,
Yeah.
right? So your soul may be enormous, but remember, we're in a construct that's created for learning. So we're all shrunk down
Hmm.
and we're doing these things. Just like if you were playing a board game, we're all shrunk right now
I agree.
because it's easier. You can fit more games in because there's games going on every planet, probably, in one like time period or another.
I
Yeah.
agree. It's interesting to think that though, that it's like playing a video game and then so many other servers of different video games going on at the same time. And if you imagine that, you know, if you have ever played a video game, you know that some people can be playing, you know, GTA over there and some people can be playing a different game over there. And there's all these different servers with all these different people playing games in these little mini realities, but it's all coexisting at the same time, you know? It's fascinating.
It is fascinating. I mean, we're going through a lot of different things right now, you guys, and we just have to roll with it. That's really the main thing is just rolling with the changes of what's going on. and not letting it stop you. So you
Yeah.
can pause, you can take a break, but don't stop altogether. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes we need to reflect on what is best for us to be outputting all the time. There may be times where you're really connected and really working on a high frequency, and there may be times where you're more involved in the human experience. And it's important to give yourself kind of a bit of a peace, and a bit of a leeway on whatever is flowing through. That's exactly what's flowing through for a reason.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just the wind has just kicked up like insanely
I can
outside.
see it behind you.
Yeah.
It's so
So
funny.
we're moving some kind of energy right now. Um, so another person asked a question. So this is from Roman, about being attracted to the same sex. Is that a shadow? Not necessarily. Like it can be a shadow for some people because maybe there was some sort of abuse that happened.
Mhm.
But for a lot of people, you have a soul that may be more leaning towards more the other sex,
Gender.
and
Yeah.
instead it's in a female, like say it's a male soul in a female body,
Hmm.
then
And I've experienced that with
and at
people a
this
lot
point
of the
it
time.
doesn't matter. I
No.
mean, that whole agenda, I mean, just ignore that. That's not that's going away. That crazy agenda that they've had um over the last 3 or 4 years or whatever. But to be truly just attracted to the same sex, like who
Yeah,
cares
I
at this
agree.
point? It doesn't matter.
I
Yeah.
completely agree. And I also think you can observe it in the animal kingdom, and a lot of the arguments people use is it's not good for procreation. And I'm like, well, we have a lot of ways to make humans at the moment, so I'm sure we'll be okay, And I'm not saying there isn't points and things for everything else, but in my opinion, there is souls that are connected to other souls, and that doesn't really matter what shell they're in, as long as the age is obviously appropriate. That's the only thing that matters physically.
Exactly.
That is
Yeah.
simply the only thing that's appropriate. And really, I think because of the agenda that's being pushed in society, obviously I won't say certain things, but because of what's being pushed, it is actually taking away from individuals just being able to do what they want in their own homes, in their own life choices. And now people are creating tension, and obviously it was done on purpose, but people really need to not buy into this agenda, especially people in the truther movement. And I will maybe not get the most positive comments for this, but I will say it because I say it to my dad. He is now awakened into the truther movement, but can become quite narrow-minded sometimes when he's talking, and he sounds quite ignorant, if I'm being brutally honest. And I have to explain to him that there's many different facets of an individual, and a certain narrative is being pumped in the media at the moment to create divide and judgment. And it's very
Mhm.
important that those that are awakened also don't buy into that narrative of judging others, shaming others, and being nasty and negative and creating hatred. That's never what any of us are here to do. I think it's important to remain sovereign and keep us children sovereign. I think that's a very, very important thing we need to do, because I do believe the children are under psychological, I won't
Yeah,
say the word, but I do think that's
pressure.
what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to protect the children. But other than that, I think that being in love with someone else that is of the same gender of you, I really don't think it's anybody else's business. You're not hurting anybody. Keep doing you.
Yeah. Just be yourself.
Hmm.
And another thing, it doesn't matter how old you are. If you want to go through ascension and you want to go through it in your body, then you can.
Yeah, I
So there
agree.
are no limits to that. Um,
It's like there won't be a limit to being young. You wouldn't think that babies are not going to ascend because they're babies and they don't know how to consciously shift the trauma. We know that they're going to ascend. And it's the same thing with older people. Like, just because there's physical limitations at this current moment doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to work through that. But I do think it's something maybe
yeah.
older people struggle with, because they've had to prepare themselves for maybe not living, all this extra time. And my auntie was saying, I don't know if would want to live another 50 to 100 years. You know, she's like, I don't know if I'm prepared to live that long. And I had to explain that it definitely wouldn't be in a deteriorated shell. It would be in a regenerated, healing, active shell so that you could actually experience life. And I think that makes a huge difference to people's perspective on staying here for the ascension.
Yeah, totally does. Totally
Yeah.
does. Somebody asked me if I had a basement in the camper. No, I will be fine. The wind is just wild. And
We'll just see you flying up.
yeah, it's so funny. When the med beds come, it's really up to what your vibration you're in. So for some people, they may come a couple years from now. For other people, they may be here in the next couple of months. It really depends on you and which parallel you're in and how healed you are and ready to, emotionally healed
Yeah,
to
it's the
go
key.
into one.
Yeah.
So think
Frequency.
about that. Yeah. There's a lot of discourse in the chat about this person said this about med beds and this person said that. Just know there's many perspectives
Yeah. And
and
we're just translating messages we get from source as well. It's just our translation.
What parallel are they in when they get that message?
Mm-hmm.
So think about that. Are they in my parallel or are they in a different parallel?
Yeah.
Ask that question when you get answers from people, because we're all going through ascension, whether we go through it in our body or not, but we're also all in different parallels right now, and we're not all in the same parallel.
No, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think the med beds is, like you say, it's also to do with belief system because you can be attuned to some things emotionally wise, but if you don't actually, I'm not saying obviously people don't, but that's something I had to work through as well. It's all about the belief system. Like you have to acknowledge and connect in that we are going through this big ascension and there is going to be support and there is going to be technologies that are available, even though some things we have heard and been told have not come in the same way that we perceived in the human. It doesn't mean that the big things that we've been told obviously are not coming into the human experience. So I think it's about just working on reprogramming when and how we think ascension needs to look and just allowing that natural reprogramming to come in when it comes to our belief system.
Exactly. So Raina is asking about her friend who is in a coma. So just send her love, send her space for healing. Would the med bed help her? Obviously it would, but is it here right now? No. So give her the frequency that she needs to heal just with intention. Ask the chat groups that you're in to pray for her.
Yeah.
And hold space for her. Like, it's amazing what can happen when you intend for somebody to be helped.
Yeah, and she's in a deep state of subconscious, healing right now. So talk to her. Tell her soul that she's not alone. Guide her soul in the way you feel like she needs guiding, support her, ask her soul to come forward and ask her guides to come forward, ask them to help her in her ascension, ask her to help her shed any disconnection between the soul and the body that's causing this physical blockage and this physical manifestation of not being able to consciously wake up. Work with her and work with the higher self, because if we can't talk to the human, we can talk to the higher self. So connect with her higher self and ask for support there.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll all send her good energy, obviously, but don't wait for something that could come like tomorrow or even like a year from now. Like whenever it comes, it comes. But right now we're in the present moment. Let's do something about it right now.
Yeah. Because it's giving us power away. Because we are all powerful healers. We are powerful connectors of source. We are powerful, powerful multidimensional beings living a human experience. And I think the sooner we remember that, the better, because we can all access different frequencies, like you say, as a bridge to the med beds. I understand the need for this urgency, but there is times where we can use things in the meantime to provide relief, support, and healing as we're waiting for the technological advances.
Yeah, exactly. So, thank you guys so much. I feel like I've run out of juice.
Yeah, I'm
My
tired.
voice
I'm
is
very
getting,
hungry.
yeah, hungry. Yeah. So just thank you guys for being here. We really do appreciate you, and we
We
will
do.
send love and energy to your friend, but
Yeah,
mostly just keep her in a love bubble so she can heal as fast as it is good for her to heal,
I
you
agree.
know? Yeah. Okay.
Okay,
Well,
beautiful.
oh, and my mouse died, of course. Okay.
Well, thank you
All
for
right.
having me on, honey.
Thank you. Thank you, Anya. And I'm going to put Anya's buy me a coffee in the description. So
Thank you.
I hope you guys all have a beautiful day. I really enjoyed talking to you. And thank you for so many of you being present during this
Yes.
impromptu live today. All right.